Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sandra Clark, and apologize for any shaking, but I'm having to hold my phone until I can get a phone holder. But anyway, so my name is Sandra Clark. Welcome to my channel and to my page. And I used to do videos all the time, and I'm getting back. God is leading me back to do videos again. So I just want to share a little bit. Today I want to talk about, it's relative to all areas of our lives, and it's important about our mental health and managing our mind and thoughts. But it's also important in fitness industry, and no one is talking about it, and I've been talking about it, and I've been encouraged, and people have been saying this needs to be talked about, as it does, especially in the fitness industry. It's all over, but even in the fitness industry. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. So I started in the fitness industry back 40 years ago when I lived in Haleiwa, Hawaii, when I was married and my husband was in the service. That's where my fitness journey began. And I started getting into running and loved running. I played soccer on a women's soccer team. And then I joined a gym in Honolulu or Pearl Ridge, and started going to a gym and taking aerobics classes. Loved aerobics classes. Wasn't into weight training or resistance training because I didn't know anything about it, and I used to be like, I just loved aerobics. So I started taking aerobics classes and fell in love with aerobics, and I wanted to teach. So I started teaching classes in Haleiwa Rec Center, where I choreographed my own routines. And back then, my husband, he had a dual cassette. He had a stereo and a dual cassette, and I used to make my own tapes. And it was to Christian music, and it was faith-based. And so I had announced it at the church, and I was doing it at the rec center for free, which was a block from where I lived in Haleiwa. It was amazing. I could see the ocean right there, and surfers used to come by. I remember Sean Thompson used to come by, and they'd stop and watch, and as I'm teaching class. But anyway, so I fell in love with teaching group fitness classes. And anyway, long story short, so ended up moving to California, had 2 kids, and I was studying for the IDEA aerobic certification, and I couldn't pronounce the words. And then I found out about a fitness instructor training program at Monterey Peninsula College, so I enrolled in that to learn, and just fell in love with aerobics. And in that, I was taking a health class, and knew right then I wanted to be a personal trainer, but I didn't know anything about personal training. I was amazed at how God made our bodies, and how our bodies are able to heal itself. A healthy body in a healthy state is able to heal itself. So anyway, ended up divorcing in California, moved back to Greenville, North Carolina, and I enrolled at East Carolina University, where I earned my Bachelor of Science degree in Exercise, Sports Science, Health, and Fitness. So I'm a fitness specialist. And I've done NAFTA personal training, and I did the AFA aerobic certification. And so I have a degree, and I'm thankful for that. But I've been personal training. I'm not doing it now, but I personal trained for years. I started personal training in 96 when I was teaching a class, and I started in-home personal training. My niche was being able to go to your house and show you what you could do without equipment, using your own body weight. So that's my niche and core strength. So I just want to give you a little history about me, my experience. I've studied for the 3 years ago, I was studying for the ISSA certification, studied it, didn't get to take the certification. I am CPR certified. I know we have to have certifications. That's a hold. I don't want to talk about that on that. But people, if you want to know my experience and knowledge and all that, I'm a self-learned person as well. And so I just ordered, and I have my muscular system and my skeletal system hanging up on the wall. I love learning about the body. I love learning. So in all my years, I had a personal training studio back in Greenville, North Carolina from 2013 to 2018 till I moved to Arizona. And when I was in Arizona, I was a personal trainer at EOS Fitness after the pandemic. So I want to share and talk about when I moved to Arizona in 2018 from North Carolina, single mother, as single grandmother, raising my 2 kids and grandkids. I needed a change, and because I was always doing for everybody else, helping and doing, and as a single mother, it's like, it's the things and patterns I learned as a single mother. It was go, do, and so I was forced to take care of everything. So I want to tell about my experience in the fitness industry, and then I want to share about my experience when I started healing from traumas in my life. And because it's very, very important what I have learned, the difference it has made in my life, healing and renewing my mind, retraining my brain. I didn't even know what that was. Nobody did, because it's only been in the last 10, 15 years that they've really studied the brain. So I moved to Arizona, uprooted. I took me and my dog, Bella, she's on the bed right here, and we drove cross country to Arizona because I needed to change. Mentally, I was exhausted, worn out. I had my personal training studio, but I was also a bartender because personal training was feast or famine, and I had, kids to support and grandkids and my life. And so I'm going to share, with my experiences, not in great detail. That's for another video. But I want to talk about, in order to build up to what I want to talk about that's never talked about in the fitness industry, and I want to be one to bring that change to talk about it. And that is about neuroplasticity and retraining your brain. And what does that mean? Why do we need to do it? My personal experience, and I also applied what I've learned with my clients at EOS Fitness, and I saw how it helped them and helped change them. So, with being in the fitness industry for 40 years, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot, and I'm thankful for my experience in the fitness industry when I started teaching Hawaii. And I just recently found out that a man that I watched I did his workouts, Gilad Jelankowicz, I think I pronounced it right, and he just recently passed away, which is very sad. But I used to do his videos, and he was in Hawaii. And I loved his videos, and he was one of my favorites. And I don't know, maybe it was just simplified. It wasn't push grinding or whatever. And Denise Austin was big back then too. Some I watched her, but I just loved Gilad. And I think he was an influence of me getting started in being a group exercise instructor, because I saw how he was. So anyway, and then when I lived in Hawaii, I went to this restaurant, which was a bar at nighttime in Haleiwa, and I saw him in there, and I met him briefly and saw him. But anyway, God bless his family and may rest in peace. But anyway, and back when I started teaching, so when I was working out at the gym, it was called the Pearl Ridge Health Club, I think. They had 6 on the island. I know my hair's a mess right now, but anyway, they had 6 on the island. The funny thing about it is, the crazy thing, which would not go over today, the one in Pearl Ridge, which was near Honolulu, downtown, all that area. So I went to that one and the one in Mililani. And so, like, on the one in Pearl Ridge or Pearl City, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, the women worked out. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the men could work out. I know, right? So there was no males at the gym we worked out. And anyway, the one when I went to Mililani, that was Monday, Wednesday, Fridays was women's days, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was men's days. So anyway, I remember taking a class at Mililani, and we were doing the donkey kicks, and I remember seeing, and remember, I don't know anything about fitness. There was no such thing as certifications back then. So anyway, I remember watching these women, and there were, all types of women, ages, Oriental women in their 40s, and they're doing a donkey kick. And I remember their back is like, just like, sunken in and rounding and doing. And I just remember thinking to myself, that doesn't seem right. It just seems not good for their back or whatever. And so fast forward, when I started teaching in the rec center and teaching classes, and I just fell in love with it. And then I started teaching at Monterey. That was in Hawaii. I don't want to jump too quick. But I remember thinking it wasn't right. So I'm teaching classes at Haleiwa Rec Center. Didn't charge for the class. Free classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I don't know, maybe I did it for about a couple months or whatever. And I just loved it. Fast forward, when I divorced in California, I ended up going and studying for that fitness instructor. I was also teaching at Monterey Peninsula College. But one of the things I learned about myself was, I think I had a gift of, it was a gift of knowing, proper form and technique, and just had this, proper form and technique is that's what I'm all about. So, and when training clients, when teaching class. So anyway, when I moved to North Carolina, back North Carolina in 1991, January, and I started teaching at a gym called Greenville Health Club. And it's it's been through many different names. And then I enrolled at East Carolina and earned my degree, graduated in 97. But I started personal training at 96, going to in-home. And then in 2013, I had my studio. So one of my niches was about the core, and I learned a lot about the core, and I've broken my back. I've had bulging discs, so I've learned a lot about the spine. I'm going to be doing videos about that. But one of the things about me was, when living in North Carolina, like, I did not realize I was addicted to exercise. And it was like, I was just so driven. I was driven, and everybody's compliment how, oh my gosh, you're in shape. Oh my God, you're so fit. Oh my gosh, you're still working out. And I'm like thinking, like, well, I'm not going to stop working out. It's a part of my life. So anyway, I love teaching kickboxing. I love working out. I would go run 2 or 3 miles, then go teach a step class. I never consider my classes my workouts. And I want to share this in hopes that somebody can resonate. So anyway, that's some of my background. And God did heal me years ago from being addicted to it. Because it was like I had to work out at least 6 days a week. And I didn't know how to slow down. And so during the pandemic, when I moved to Arizona during the pandemic, I thought, well, let me do I'll do some live video workouts on Facebook to help people and get them motivated to work out in their homes, since we're all stuck in our homes. And I would say, okay, it's going to be a 20-minute workout or 30-minute. Well, I couldn't stop at 20 or 30 minutes. It would be 40 minutes. And then the next day, I would feel horrible. And I'm like, I worked out. Exercise is good for me. Why am I feeling so bad? And then it was like I didn't know how to stop. When I started working out, my body did not know how to stop. Now I know why, because my cortisol levels, that addiction, that drive that I had for years, my brain had learned that and wanted that fix, and I didn't want to stop. So that was a big aha moment for me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to slow down when I'm working out. So I realized also during the pandemic, I had a sinus infection 2 weeks after the salon I worked at closed down. I was feeling horrible. And I'm like, the sinus pressure, the ear pain, the headaches, the sinus, it was like, oh my God, my brain felt like it was on fire. So anyway, because I had time to sit down and think and realize and become aware of, because I was at home, I couldn't go to work, I realized I had been chronically sick with chronic sinus infections, chronic sinusitis, for 25 years. Now, mind you, in that 25 years, I'm also teaching fitness classes. I'm a personal trainer. I'm working. I'm going while I'm on an antibiotic and taking medications. 2 to 3 times an average a year, I was taking an antibiotic. And so when I had this realization, when I'm sitting there on my couch, sick in my studio where I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, I was like, oh my gosh, I have been chronically sick. And the go, do, go drive made me sick. Because I can't stop. I can't not work. I got to go do. And then when I was doing those videos on Facebook and realized I didn't know how to slow down, I started having this awareness, which is very, very important when we take time to become aware of our lives, our physical pains, what our body's trying to tell us. I started becoming aware, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I was like, why am I chronically sick? I couldn't figure out why I was chronically sick. And so I was chronically sick. So I didn't know why. And I've lived back in North Carolina in places that had mold. And I remember one place, I was so sick, I had to quit my job. I had sinusitis, bronchitis, and it's just like, but like your whole head, your whole everything is just like, oh my gosh, the pressure is unreal. But here I am, a fitness trainer. I'm healthy, I look healthy and all this, but I was chronically sick all the time. I was always bloated, I had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And so anyway, my personal experience is very important of what I'm going to talk about, what needs to be brought in the fitness. So it's very, very important. So I had ended up discovering mold in my bathroom, and that I had them pull the carpets up, and they put linoleum flooring, And then when they pulled the carpets and the baseboard in the bathroom, they didn't paint over it, and there was mold exposed. I was like, ooh, that's my problem. That's why I'm so sick. So I began searching for mold supplements, like what to take for mold illness. Like, I'm all natural. I like natural. And when I Googled, I was looking and scrolling down, and I know not to look at the sponsored. I found this person. Her name was Brooklyn Hannah, and I have to give her the credit because God put her in my life online. That's one of the things I love about online, and connected me to her. So something, I went and clicked on her, and she used to be a functional nurse or something. I have to go back and look, but anyway, I want to give her what the title she had. She now has her own, her and her husband, brain rewiring program. She's amazing. So anyway, I clicked on hers, and she had a Facebook group with mold illness. So I joined her group and was on her group for a couple months, met people. We're all dealing with the same stuff. Some people had worse than I did, chronically sick. It's just horrible. So then the latter part of 2020, she's doing this live video that I had gotten on, and she had been chronically sick and mold and all that. So she started talking about neuroplasticity, and she's married, and she started talking about how she didn't realize all she talked about was her sickness, her illness. She'd lay on the couch, her husband would be like, oh, let's go somewhere. She's like, no, I'm sick, I don't feel good. Everything was always about her sickness. And she goes, when you talk about it, you're feeding it and making yourself sicker. And I was just like, what? Because that's all I talked about. When I was in Arizona, because the pandemic, we were shut down, it took me 3 hours to get out of bed. And thankfully my dog, she never would get me to take her out. She could hold it, and I would go take her out. But it took me 3 hours to get out of bed because the pressure, my head was on, my brain was literally felt like on fire. So she started talking about neuroplasticity. And I want to tell you, I've saved some of the notes. So neuroplasticity, what is that? Well, it's important to know what that is. Neuroplasticity refers to your brain's ability to adapt and change. By rewiring your brain, you can calm the stress response and reverse your symptoms because of the brain-body connection. Our brains don't know the difference between a real or imagined experience. If you're thinking about a trauma and sickness, our brain is living it in the present. So any traumas or anything, if you've had in your past, if you think it, you're going to live it out still. But you're not. The thing about it is, you're not there anymore. You're not in the past anymore, but we're still living it in our brains. That was me. So our brain is living in the present. If we're laughing and seeing a future full of all the things we enjoy, our brain is believing we're healthy. I had a hard time personally seeing the future full of all the good things. I couldn't do it, and I will talk about that. Our brain is believing we're healthy, but I had lived with chronic pain for 25 to 30 years. I used to have really bad menstrual cramp here, horrible, when I was a teenager, when I was 16, 17. I couldn't go to school, or I had to leave school. So I've lived with physical pain for most of my entire adult life. And so let me read on. Whatever you focus on gets wired into your brain. And the more we think of a thought, feel an emotion, perform an action, the more likely we're going to go to those again. It's how addictions and habits form. It's how depression develops. And do you Google every time you have a symptom or something more positive that will actually benefit your healing? So I was always Googling my symptoms. I have been to the ENT doctor even when I was in North Carolina, And when I was in Arizona, like, something's wrong. And they're like, oh, we can't find anything, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. And I'm like, something's wrong with me. And let me also tell you, too, I had surgery. I'd had my ovaries removed. I had surgery when I was in Hawaii. I had a 6 centimeter cyst on my left ovary, 5 centimeter cyst on my right ovary. I had chronically lower abdominal pain, like my entire life, adult life. And that was when I was married. And they did surgery to remove the cyst. They didn't want to take my ovaries out because I didn't have children. So let's fast forward to California. I had 2 children and I had the same pain again. This time they took out my right ovary. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I was having pain again. And they thought I had adenomyosis, which is blood clots in your uterus. But the only way to find out is to take your uterus out. So they took my uterus out. I still have my left ovary. So I've had like 6, 7 surgeries, which is traumatic on your body. And so those surgeries were traumatic, but I never healed from it. So then a year later, I'm still having pain again. They took out my left ovary. So when you have symptoms, so that is neuroplasticity. And I want to thank God for Brooklyn Hannah for what she started talking about from her experience and me learning. And I started learning about retraining my brain, my thoughts getting hold. And I'm not going to talk about all the things I did, but I want to preface that one of the things they do in neuroplasticity is, as she said, you need to imagine your future with no pain. And I remember laying in bed trying to do that. I couldn't, because I lived with pain for so long. I had thought that was my normal. And I remember praying to God and thinking, God, it's like, what is it like to feel normal? And I know the normal is a setting on the washing machine, okay? What is normal? But living with chronic pain is not normal. So much of what we normalized is not normal. And so, anyway, so I started learning about it, and then, you know how bad it was? If I saw a commercial on YouTube, let's say it's a pharmaceutical commercial, I don't know, and it's always they got people happy and moving, and I'm just like, I used to think when I would see a commercial, and I know it's just a commercial, I want to be like that. And I'm a born-again Christian, and I didn't have that. I wanted to have that joy. And at moments I had joy, but it was fleeting. And I could not see myself that being that joyful and happy and free from pain. I couldn't see it. I couldn't vision it. And because I had learned so much now that I know. So when I began working on neuroplasticity, latter part of 2020, 21, I also stumbled upon Dr. Caroline Leaf. She has a Neurocycle program that she developed. She is a neuroscientist that has studied the brain for over 40 years. She has a book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, Dr. Caroline Leaf. And a client back in Arizona got me this book because I wanted to buy it, but I could never afford it. So I started learning about her Neurocycle program. It's an app she has, and doing her mini Neurocycles app. And one day on a Saturday, because I used to get, anybody could sign up for her texts and emails, and it was something about along the line of your perception, changing your perception about yourself is key. And I'd never heard that before. And so that was like, oh my gosh, it's my perception. My perception about myself, about God, was so skewed. And that's what I want to talk about. And one day I was listening to her podcast, and she's talking about cleaning up your mental mess, getting a hold of your thoughts. And she said one day in a podcast, she goes, even before you exercise, before you work out, you need to manage your thoughts, get a hold of your thoughts before you exercise. And I remember thinking, wow, okay. Then I heard in another podcast interview on YouTube with Lewis Howes, Howes. He is a fitness entrepreneur. He does online. He's amazing. He was doing an interview with this neuroscientist. I don't know how that's his name. I want to give credit. He's a handsome man. Yes, he's married and has children. And he had this book, so I ordered it, Neurofitness. In that interview, that podcast, he said the same thing. That before you work out, before you exercise, you need to get a hold of your thoughts, manage your thoughts. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is okay. Got my attention. I'm listening. And oh my gosh, I thought neuroplasticity, when I learned about Brooklyn Hannah telling me, opened up a can of worms. It was like, whoa. Well, this even opened up Pandora's box, was like, so I started doing personally, getting a hold of my thoughts, healing from my past traumas. And that's what I began doing. I began healing from my past traumas, and I highly recommend it. If you've had some severe traumas, I didn't have help. I didn't have a psychologist doing it with me. I ended up doing counseling therapy. I talked to a therapy that I got through when I was on Medicaid. But I did a lot of the work. And I know it's hard. Not everybody can do it on their own. And I say I did it on my own. God was helping me do it. He was guiding me. He was with me. I sat on my bed. I've had ugly cries. And some people say you don't have to go and face the traumas in your past. I think everybody's different. Some people have had really traumatic experiences. I know you don't want to relive. So I get that. And if you do this and I highly recommend you get a therapist, a counselor, psychologist to help you through it. But I highly recommend and encourage people to do it. Okay? I highly recommend it, because I can tell you from my experience, I am now, I don't have chronic sinus infections. I think I had one living back in North Carolina, has been oh my gosh. I know the triggers. I know what's triggered it. Moving back to North Carolina 3 years ago has been a very huge mental challenge. I've learned and grown and healed even more, and was triggered. Sorry, I'm getting text. So anyway, it's still and there's days I've had to be like, you know what? I don't need to work on healing every day, because I need to enjoy my life. But I can tell you that pain and bloating that I had for years, I am free. So my point is about with fitness. So I began doing the work. I went back to face my some childhood traumas, and I learned to love that little girl. I learned to forgive that little girl. Okay? I learned to tell that little girl you didn't know better. You didn't know how to speak up. And the teenager, the rebellious, my choices, I was self-destructive. Bella. And sorry about that. So I learned to love that little girl, the teenager, the adult woman who made the unhealthy choices. And I'm not talking fitness, my drinking, I drank a bottle, 2 bottles of wine in one night to relieve the stress, because that was my... So I guess this video is going to be a little bit more of telling my story. I will do another one, but telling my story is very, very important, so you can trust that I know what I'm talking about. And I didn't do it alone. Her app helped me. This is a brilliant book, just fascinating, like as a brain surgeon, and that's what he talks about. His office is the brain, and it's just like, whoa. And so I went over a little bit of time, so for time's sake, I'm going to do another video of what I want to talk about, but I'm going to end with, when I was in Arizona and doing this healing, and just like my whole brain and mind just went from living oppressed, depressed. I will say this. When I started learning about this, I realized I hated myself. I lived in self-condemnation. I loathed myself. But here I am, a Christian that God loves, but I couldn't receive his love. I couldn't receive it for myself. I'll talk more about that in the next video that I do. So this is more of an introductory of myself and my experience. So I began to see God. My perspective of God changed. My perspective about myself changed, because I had developed my identity based on the traumas, the experiences, how people treated me, or what they didn't do, what my parents did and what they didn't do. I didn't grow up in an abusive home, middle class house, middle class family, but it was what they didn't do. They didn't protect me. They weren't there. They didn't give me the unconditional love. And it's because they couldn't give what they don't have. They didn't know unconditional love either. So for years, I had carried the weight and the burdens of my traumas, my mistakes, my choices, and I held them against me. And it's like, well, God doesn't, but why can't I live this life of joy and no condemnation? And I would read that in scripture, but I couldn't live it out. And because of, and I'll show an analogy, what my non-conscious part of my brain, my perspective, my beliefs, where my memories were stored, that's what I changed. That's what I have renewed. That's what it is, renewing the mind. And not the conscious part of your mind, because your conscious part is going, I'm fine. It's in denial. It's going, I'm okay. Because you learned it for survival skills. You learned it to cope. You had to survive. No judgment against yourself. I went back and forgave myself. That's where it starts. When you forgive yourself, you're receiving the forgiveness that God has for you. And so for years, I didn't receive it. And that's a slap in the cross of Jesus. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. And we don't know it, but God was loving me through all my whole life. So remember when I told you I couldn't see myself pain-free, living pain-free? And about 6 months after doing training at EOS, and applying what I learned with my clients, the stories I have that I could share with you with my clients are amazing. And I've shared it with people at the bar, or at my job, and they're like, oh my gosh, this needs to be shared. This needs to be told. And it does. So anyway, I began applying what I know about getting a hold of your thoughts before you exercise. One example there was a lady, she had scoliosis, she had surgery, she had a rod in her back, but anyway, you could see it, and she was an amazing woman. She had a high stress job, and she would come in one day. I saw her, I was finishing up with the client, I saw her come in and rushing to the bathroom, and she's rushing, running to the bathroom. And then she meets me over the desk, trainer desk. She goes, okay, I'm ready to work out. And I was like, what I know now, before I would have been, okay, come on, let's go, girl. Let's go, hit it. Because I did the same thing. I'm, let's go, intense, push, sweat. That's how I was. Okay, that's what I did. It's how I lived. And so anyway, I told her, you're not ready to work out. She was like, huh? She'd never heard that before. I said, you're not ready to work out. We're going to do something different. I went over and we sat down. I had her doing deep breathing exercises, the box breathing, inhale slow, exhale slow, because I needed to activate her parasympathetic nervous system. I needed to get it activated, okay? And because she was in a high stress, so she's got high cortisol levels going. And when you work out with high your stress hormones already, it's going to create oxidative stress. And when I began learning about all this and realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I was causing oxidative stress in my body. That's what ages us. Think about a healthy cell is a ripe, red, juicy tomato. A cell under oxidative stress is a tomato that's rotten, is black and it got mold and black and it's rotten. That's our cells when we're oxidative stress. When you don't manage your mind and the stressors of our life, that's what's going to happen. Then all these sicknesses and illnesses and diseases will occur in our bodies. Now, we're not talking about environmental and stuff like that, like mold. Yes, mold was contributing, but I learned mold was not my problem, but I was blaming mold. And yet did contribute it, but it was not the main problem. There was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't broken after all. It was my perception, and I wasn't living loved by God. I couldn't receive it because of my perception and my belief. I thought he was mad at me. So now when I exercise and work out, so back when I exercised, I did it out of fear. I was anorexic from the age of 16, didn't know it. When I lived in Hawaii, I was anorexic. So I exercised out of fear. Fear of gaining weight, fear of not fitting in, fear of not belonging, fear of not looking good enough, blah, 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 on and on. So my driving force was fear to exercise, which is unhealthy. It's unhealthy. So my brain thinks it's in danger. So I want to go ahead because of time's sake, because it's almost 45 minutes. I went over 15 minutes longer than I anticipated. But there's a lot that I need to talk about. And so I'm going to do another video on this. And I hope I got your attention. So I began applying this with my clients. After 6 months, I'm leaving EOS, which was it's in Phoenix, but North Scottsdale. I call it Scottsdale. And I was driving back to Scottsdale, towards South Scottsdale. I'm driving home one day, and I'm going, I went, oh my gosh, it works. I'm not having any pain. I haven't had a sinus infection in 6 months. Oh my God, I feel better. I'm feeling like, oh my God. And I was like, this works. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I am that happy, joyous. I'm feeling the no pain. I've had moments, but it's like triggers, and I'll talk about that another time. But overall, I am healed, renewed my mind. 3 John 1:2, and I'm going to talk about that in the next video. I'll do another video. But it works. And I started doing it with my clients. I saw how it helped them. Getting a hold of your fears. Y'all, it is life-changing. And as a born-again Christian, we can have that wellness, the well-being. It is well with my soul, your mind. And I'll talk about that in the next video. But this is an introductory about why it's important to manage your mind and your thoughts, especially before you work out. And you can find healing and health and be in good health even as your soul prospers. That's the problem. The root of our physical health is from our mental health, but we're treating the symptoms. Our physical health, we're only treating the symptoms of it. I want to get to the root of it. And God has helped me to get to the root of it, where there was nothing wrong with me. Jesus righted, he did everything, but but I wasn't living it out because my perception and my beliefs were skewed based on lies I believed from the traumas, how people treated me, neglected me, abandonment, rejection, all that. I've lived it and experienced. And if you want to learn more, please comment, please reach out. And don't do this alone. If you've had severe traumas, you need to get counseling if you're not already getting help with that. But anyway, thanks for joining my video. And sorry I went longer. 45 minutes is my cutoff. I don't want to take too much of your time, but this is real important, and I'm going to do another video. This is the beginning of it. This is just the beginning. So thank you for joining me. Reach out, leave comments. I'll leave my email too if you want to email. Anyway, God bless. Jesus loves you. There is hope. You can find healing. You are greatly loved. We got to stop believing the lies that God is looking down upon us and frowning and not loving you because you messed up. That's a lie from the pit of hell, and I want to go ahead and end with that. We got to cast those lies out and being able to start receive the truth. God loves you so much, and even if you don't believe it, say, I want to believe that God loves me if you have a hard time with that. I promise you, I'm now a whole different person than I was when I started this back in 2019, 20. Anyway, thanks. Peace out. Love you.